Have you ever actually stopped to think about the everyday infrastructure you rely on? I'm talking about the water you drink the second you turn on the faucet, the electricity lighting up your room, or the roads you drive on every single day to get to work. Who makes all that happen? It's incredibly easy to take these physical structures for granted, right? To just assume they simply exist. But there's this hidden mechanism, a massive engine churning in the background that literally takes an idea and turns it into the concrete beneath your feet.
Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're pulling back the curtain on one of the most powerful yet honestly least understood forces shaping your daily life. We're going to explore the vital role of public purchasing and see exactly how smart spending by your government directly impacts local economies, social equity, and public trust.
Okay, let's dive right into this. You might see what look like pretty standard, maybe even slightly boring bureaucratic steps. Public bidding in a conference room, formal contract signings. But those administrative steps literally transform into the school building where kids learn, the hanging bridge connecting a remote village, the illuminated roads you drive on at night, and the pedestrian overpass keeping you safe. The bridge between that paperwork and the reality you live in is a process called procurement. From the very first bid to the completed infrastructure you use daily, procurement made it possible.
To really grasp how this works, here's our agenda for today. We'll start with the invisible public force, define what public procurement actually is, and look at trillions at work. Then, we'll cover investing in your community, why procurement is your business, and finally, how to move from awareness to action.
All right, let's kick things off with Section 1, the invisible public force.
There's a really stark contrast here. We so often think of government spending as just numbers on a giant spreadsheet somewhere, but it has profound physical consequences. When procurement works well, when it's thoughtful, transparent, and inclusive, your community thrives. It creates jobs, it supports local businesses, and it delivers long-term value. But when it's poorly managed, when it fails, the community pays the literal price. Infrastructure crumbles, essential services halt, and everyone suffers. The stakes are absolutely huge.
Moving on to Section 2. What exactly is public procurement?
Simply put, public procurement is the process where the government buys goods, services, and infrastructure using your tax money. The crucial takeaway here is that this is absolutely not just some back-office administrative function. It is a vital, strategic tool for local growth. It's the very mechanism that ensures the responsible use of public funds to deliver better long-term value for you, rather than just cutting corners for a quick, short-term cost saving.
And if you think this is just an abstract concept, get this. Look at the macroeconomic scale we're dealing with. In many countries, public procurement accounts for 10 to 15% of the national GDP and up to 50 to 70% of total government spending. This is the true economic engine of a nation. It represents a massive share of economic activity. That is your money being put to work to build hospitals, buy medicines, and construct classrooms.
Which brings us to Section 3, trillions at work for fiscal year 2025.
I want you to just let this staggering figure sink in for a second. 6.326 trillion pesos. That is the national budget for fiscal year 2025. This isn't just a big number. This is the sheer weight and potential of your tax money waiting to be deployed to benefit society as a whole. And when we actually break down that 6.326 trillion pesos by sector, the priorities really jump out at you. Social services takes the largest slice of the pie at 32.1%, which is just over 2 trillion pesos. Right behind it is economic services at 31.1%, or nearly 1.97 trillion pesos. Together, those two sectors alone, which are dedicated directly to improving quality of life and driving economic growth, take up over 63% of the entire budget.
Let's narrow it down a bit. In Section 4, investing in your community.
Out of that total budget, about 3.16 trillion pesos, so roughly 50% of the entire annual budget, goes straight to key infrastructure investments. Of that, 1.645 trillion pesos is dedicated to the Build Better More program, which includes 186 infrastructure flagship projects. But it also trickles down to everything else you see around you: road networks, flood control, local infrastructure, and school buildings. Transparent, competitive procurement is literally the only way to ensure every single peso stretches as far as possible to build these facilities.
Section 5. Procurement is your business.
Listen, if you take only one thing away from this explainer, let it be this. Procurement is not just government business, it is your business. For way too long, there's been this public perception of, kind of indifference toward government spending, treating it as something only officials and suppliers need to worry about. But that gap between government bureaucracy and your rights as an individual citizen,
that needs to be bridged. This is your tax money.
Because the reality is, public procurement affects all of us. It touches every single corner of society. Whether you're a farmer waiting for government-procured seeds and farm tools to start your season, a teacher who desperately needs classrooms and textbooks, a patient relying on government-purchased medicines in a health center, or just a commuter relying on safe public roads and construction crews to get to work, your daily life is directly affected by how these funds are managed.
And finally, Section 6, From Awareness to Action.
The ultimate goal of this explainer is to outline a clear, proactive pathway for you. We want to shift citizens from being passive consumers of public services to becoming active advocates. Step 1 is to educate yourself and others on how this whole process works, which, hey, you're doing right now. Step 2 is to engage by taking an active interest in local projects and asking where the funds are going. And step 3 is to empower individuals to hold officials accountable for maintaining ethical standards and transparent financial management. Because awareness is simply the first step to accountability.
Advocacy requires a loud, unified voice. You can increase reach, visibility, and demand for ethical standards in your community just by joining the conversation online. Use these specific hashtags. Hashtag Community First. Hashtag Citizen Power. Hashtag Transparency Wins. Hashtag Procurement for All. Hashtag Procurement Matters. And hashtag Your Tax Money at Work. Spreading awareness together ensures that public procurement remains a public responsibility, not some exclusive government secret.
I want to leave you with a question to really think about. What public infrastructure in your community are you most grateful for, and what do you prioritize next? Now that you know that procurement was the hidden force behind the very things you're grateful for, it's time to take immediate ownership of your local needs. Let us know in the comments what your community prioritizes. Thank you so much for diving into this fascinating topic with me. Keep learning, keep advocating, and remember, your awareness shapes your community.
Please follow, support, and share this advocacy. Thank you for watching.